Well, I don't often get Emmy nominated actors from hit shows on my program, so this was very exciting for me. Jeremy Swift is here. You've seen him as Higgins on Ted Lasso. He's also been on Downton Abbey and the Oscar winning movie Gosford Park and tons more. And he also does music. So he's here today to promote his new album, Songs of Escape and Endless Night. He's got great stories about music, seeing the Sex Pistols with Sid Vicious, acting, shows that he's watching himself, and so much more. He had me cracking up. Check it out. How many instruments do you play?
Well, I tinker around on a lot of things, really. The main one is really the double bass and the keyboards. But I was taught the piano and the violin when I was a kid, and I play a bit of guitar, and I've got an E-kit over there, which I can get a few rhythms on. But I don't play it that often, and my wife says, that takes up so much room, and you play it like once every 3 months. When are we going to take it to the dump?
Oh, because on this new record, I heard a saxophone. I think I heard like some sort of flute. Are those you or no?
Oh, there is a fantastic sax player, John Shion, who plays on a couple of tracks. Yeah, that's the only musician apart from myself. It's mostly it's a lot of keyboards and a lot of programming, to be honest. And but I play the double bass on one track. It's mostly keyboard playing and singing.
Yeah, no, it's great. I love that like sound, that 80s synth pop stuff. It's so like, especially the song Wonderland and Who Is This? Those two especially have that 80s sound, I think it sounds like to me.
Cool. Okay. I'm glad you like them. Yeah, appreciate
it. You have other influences too, though.
I do. I listen to almost anything. I mean, I am blimey. It just depends. There's two stations in the UK, basically. There's the BBC stations. There's Radio 3, which plays, 80% of the time classical, but then on a weekend it plays contemporary jazz and, more offbeat, modern kind of classical music. And there's 6 Music, which similarly plays a lot of indie, but then on the weekend they'll play Brazilian stuff and jazz and all sorts of stuff. Yeah. I Shazam things constantly. Like, what is that? And there's not one genre that I like to mix it up. Basically, I love 20th century classical music. I love 16th, 17th century, like more Bach, Handel. I love jazztronica, bebop jazz, electronic funk, of course, disco.
Wow, that's very eclectic. Was there a point in time though where you really like? When did you start playing music? When did you really fall in love with it? Was there something that like a sound or song that really hit you?
Gosh, no. Well, my parents were music teachers, so there was music all the time when I was a kid. It was more what I didn't like. Really, it was like, I don't like that Mozart. He's stuffy, which I do now, of course. But yeah, there were musical instruments around the house, and also my dad was a sort of tinkerer and sort of was always putting things together. So he would buy, instead of buying an acoustic guitar, he got one and made it from a kit. It was the early 70s. That's what people seem to do. And he subscribed to these magazines called Practical Electronics and Practical Wireless, and you could send away at the back for these kits of basically oscillators. So you would get a sort of kit of transistors and capacitors and all that kind of thing, and you'd put together a very basic, square wave oscillator or something like that, or a ring modulator, the voice that's used for the distorting, like the Daleks in Doctor Who. That. And so I got into that as well, looking back, I realize as a kid, as much as playing instruments, you know.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
he,
what? Because and then when did you get into acting? Was it kind of around the same time?
I my mum took me to, there was an art centre opened in my sort of very out of the way town in the northeast of England, Stockton-on-Tees. And, you know, there hadn't been anything like that before. And we went to join it. And I was the first member of Dovecot Art Centre. And I used to go to improv acting classes every week. It wasn't like, you know, it's not like how we think of improv comedy. Ooh, I'm an owl. You know, it was we'd have scenarios and we'd have somebody to kind of like, you know, a kind of teacher who'd sort of put stuff together. So I did that from the age of 11. At the same time, you know, it was extracurricular school stuff, you know, as well as sort of learning the piano and the violin. Yeah.
So you've just always kind of been into music and acting simultaneously.
Pretty much. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So this new record, talk about I heard you talking about the producer, how you had to get another producer. There was a problem with the first one or something.
Oh, you heard that? Oh, yes. I better be careful.
You said the first producer was nuts. If I quote you accurately, I think.
Yeah. I got this laptop actually, which because about 4 years ago, I lost a lot of songs and they just sort of disappeared. So, and I didn't have an external hard drive. So I thought, I need a massive memory on my laptop. And so I'd got this one made up, this MacBook, which is got a huge, I think it's 2 terabytes, or is it 4? I can't remember now. Anyway, it cost me like £3,500, and he got frustrated with it and started thumping it. And it was like, you can't do that, you can't do that. So and then my wife said, why don't we go? Because and we sort of knew this other producer because he'd worked on the film Mary Poppins Returns, which I did about 6 years ago, and what a godsend he is. He's called Mark Warman, and he worked with Scott Walker on some of the later, more difficult to listen to Scott Walker albums, but which were really sophisticated sound wise. And yeah, so he was great to bounce stuff off, you know, because I did the first album I did by myself. And I have got to admit, some of those songs, I'm very pleased with a lot of it, but some of them are a bit lacking in sound quality. But he is, he's been a marvel. Really, really enjoyed working with him.
Yeah, it's cool. I wanted to ask you about the song History of Love, because that one's really dark. Like No One Else by My Side, It's Time to Hide, No One Could Survive It, Why Me, No History of Love, Nothing Up Above. I'm like listening to this going, okay, this is dark. Is this a fictional story or is this a real life inspired event?
This it is it is a fictional story. It's it's essentially you wonder how you end up doing this kind of stuff, but it's essentially a kind of child abuse and impending child murder kind of story. And I was very, very horrified. I think when I first came up with the concept of the song, it was about 5 years ago, and there was a kid who was missing for a while and was murdered by a neighbor, and it was and I had kids, and I just thought it just tears your heart out, and I started with something that was really romantic, and I thought, I don't think I can go down this romantic a route. And then I came up with the title History of Love, and I thought, oh, that sounds like history of violence. And so that's why I turned it into No History of Love, and I turned it into this dark 6-minute very tortured sort of song. It's one of those things that sort of, once you start down an avenue, you sort of think, this might be very uncomfortable for some people to listen to, but no, I don't think anybody has done this or approached this. Possibly Morrissey, very early on when he wrote the Moors Murders. I don't know whether you've heard of the Moors Murders. With two people in the 60s. They killed, about 7 kids in the near to Manchester. They're kind of horrific legends. But you know, it's not something that's really written. So I thought it would be interesting to write it from the point of view of somebody who is that's about to happen to. So it's from the child's perspective, really.
Mm. Wow, that's dark. That's interesting. That's
I'm really
interesting.
selling the album, aren't I?
No, but that's, I mean, it's a good topic to bring up. But yeah, I just saw that Sound of Freedom movie, and it was the same kind of thing. It's like, it's hard to watch. Like something about, I can see any horror movie, people getting head chopped off, I'm fine. Anything to do with kids or animals, I get really uncomfortable. I just cannot watch those things. Kids or animals being hurt. It's too, yeah. So that's interesting. I didn't know what that song was. That's what it was about. So, wow, that's powerful.
Yeah. I mean, if it reaches people in different ways, you know, then that's fine too. But that's fundamentally where that song is coming from. Yeah.
Is it cathartic to write a song like that? And you know, because when you have those thoughts and then you get it out and musically, it's got to be kind of emotionally cathartic, I would think.
It is. I mean, you know, it's not something I've really done before, or possibly may do again. But so I sort of feel that I hope I'm not putting a burden on anybody. Do you know what I mean? When something is so, you know, that's you're putting something out there that's quite that dark.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that's life though. That's what I like about this album. I mean, there's that song, and then there's the other one. I think is it called After Sylvia, that was kind of a little bit slower, seems a little darker. But then there's like the happy stuff, like the more 80s synth pop sounding, and then the single. Is this going to be the single "Can't Stop Doing It"? That seems more like a fun song.
It is. Although it's got a dark side as well, because it's about as I like to mix the sweetie with the sour. It's kind of about compulsive behavior and, you know, and reveling in it, really, you know, and then feeling sort of shame about it. However, what I thought, well, that's interesting, because you've written something about compulsive behavior and sort of addictive behavior, and it's a kind of earworm song. It's very, very sort of self-generating kind of, you know, it keeps playing in your head. But yeah, I that screamed out to be a single, ostensibly, you know, and much more so than any of the other tracks. And I had a couple of guys who put together a really cool, crazy video for it as well. So it was a lot of fun to put together.
Oh, I don't know if I saw the video yet. I'll have to check
that
out.
The video. Yeah, there's a video for Wonderland as well. They're both by the same couple of guys called the Hadley brothers. The DP, camera operator, if you will, Malcolm. He's worked with Tim Burton a lot, and Tom, the director and editor. They work with very arty, sort of off the wall kind of people. So, yeah.
So what is the goal when you put out a record like this? I mean, obviously you're doing press, so you want to promote it. Is there a specific, like, you want to get it on playlists and stuff? Because I feel like radio is not even that big of a thing. It's all about the Spotify playlist or whatever.
I know. I just hope that people. It seems self-defeating to work on something for a long time and then not try and let people hear it. But I mean, I don't know, you know, I don't have, I just have PR. I don't have a manager or a record label or anything like that. You know, it's just a self-motivated project that I can sort of put together and be creative. And when I'm not doing my acting projects, you know.
Yeah. Now, obviously you could try to maybe get some of the songs in movies and TV. Would you try to perform some of these songs live? I mean, would you go on tour, do a small tour or something, or one-off?
If I got some backing, I would love to do that. At the moment, I have quite a few things in the pipeline, although there is a strike impending, so I don't know quite how they're going to all work out now. But I think when there is more of a momentum and people are a little bit more aware of me musically, then that might happen. I would love to put something visually together, performance-wise.
Oh, yeah, that's a good idea. That's a huge part of like seeing a show, I think, when there's some sort of special effects or
Isn't it? I think you have to have a visual vibe, and having what I've never been to Glastonbury, but I watch it every year on TV. It's a big thing in the UK. You know, it's on. You can you know, on the catch up, you can watch all sorts of different acts, dozens and dozens of them, and I'm noticing more and more that people have a really compelling visual, message going out. It's not just turning up with a bit of a light show. There's stuff going on, whether it's costumes or routines or just a character,
yeah. Did you see that? I've never seen Taylor Swift live, but I just saw the clip. Have you seen that thing where she jumps into the pool and she swims? It looks like she's swimming in a pool on stage. It's the most amazing visually looking thing. I mean, whether you're like her music or not, that stunt was amazing.
Oh, wow.
You haven't seen it?
I haven't seen it. No.
You'll have to Google that.
I will. Yeah, I'm writing it down now.
Do you see a lot of concerts? Do you go to a lot of shows?
When I can, it's probably not as much as I would like to. I mean, when I was a kid, I used to go and see punk bands. I'm that old. I used to see punk bands.
Really? Wait, tell me about this. Which punk bands?
Oh, I saw the Sex Pistols. And they only they only played about 57 gigs ever. I saw the Clash, I think 3 times. I saw the Jam, Ultravox with John Fox. But yeah, all sorts of people. Patti Smith in 78. That was great.
What were the Sex Pistols like live? I've never met. I don't think I've ever met anyone that's seen them live.
Here's the story.
Oh yes, here we go.
They were kind of banned, right? Can you believe it? They were banned from playing, so they played under pseudonyms. So I saw in the local newspaper that there was going to be an act called Acne Rabble. Now, this was a play on another band, UK band called Cockney Rebel, and I thought Acne Rabble, that's the Sex Pistols. So we went down, got tickets. We waited something like 4 hours, and retrospectively, I know why this happened. 4 hours for them to come on stage, because when they came on stage, Sid Vicious was completely out of it, and they'd clearly been looking round in the north, in the scabby northeast where I'm from, for a smack dealer. So his bass was actually turned off, but the sound that the rest of the band made was phenomenal, and it was so exciting to see them. And when they came on stage, I'm slightly welling up. When they came on stage, they were grinning, and you'd seen pictures of them for a year going.
That was a good Sex Pistols impersonation.
All that, and they just came out, and they were happy to see us and play, and we were happy, and they were absolutely stunning. I did see them again when they were like 40, and they played Finsbury Park, and that was in about 94 or something like that. And they were still great. They were still fantastic.
No Sid Vicious, though.
No Sid Vicious. They got Glenn Matlock back, the original band. Yeah.
Yeah. So remind me again why they were banned. Was it just straight from the music, or was it the stage antics, or?
They just got a really bad rep. They went to the part of the first thing was that this. I think this was in the TV show about them, which I didn't watch because it didn't look very good. They went on TV about 5. It was like a sort of chat show about 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and I don't think I can swear on your show, can I?
Yeah, you can fucking swear and shit and everything.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, they'd all been to the hospitality suite, and they'd all had a bit of a drink. And in the background there was like Susie Sue as well, and this grumpy old fart presenter. I think John Lydon said something, and then said, "Oh, that's that's bloody rubbish or something like that. And he said, oh, what was that? And John Lydon said, oh, nothing. A bit scolded. He said, nothing. This is all on YouTube, by the way. Nothing, a rude word. Carry on. He said, oh, no. Go on, swear. And then Steve Jones, who was sat there with a fag in his hand, went, you. Oh, that's right. Susie Sue was behind him and he said, oh, I might see you later. And then Steve Jones went, you dirty fucking rotter. And he went, oh, very good. You fucking dirty old man. Oh, well done. And they all laughed and everything. It was front pages all over the press. A guy, one guy shoved a crowbar through his telly because his daughter was watching the telly, and they lost contracts. They signed, they went from EMI to A&M to Richard Branson's Virgin. And then they went to sign when they did go around about the time they did God Save the Queen. They went to sign their new record deal in front of Buckingham Palace, and Sid Vicious was sort of sick in front of the, so there was and all the press were there watching this stuff all the time. So it was on the television. There were debates on the television with, gray suited, hatchet faced right wingers, all going, this isn't right for Christian people and all this kind of thing. So,
because I thought Europe was a little bit more socially liberal. Like that's what I've never been there, but that's what, don't you guys have like nudity and commercials and things like that, or
nudity and commercials?
I thought that was maybe not in your country, but maybe in other European countries. I feel like, isn't that a thing?
You might be thinking of Sweden in the 70s or something. I don't really know. But it was a long time ago. It's nearly 40. No, it's probably longer. I don't know. I've lost track of time. I'm so old myself. But it was when you look back at this footage, you think, oh my God, what a staid. No wonder punk came along. We were rotting to death under this tedious lifestyle that we had, everything was, and also hippies had become, and it was right to go against hippies because hippies had become, money makers and sort of exploiters of like the music business. And there were big things like the Rolling Stones it was complained about because they would play huge venues like at Earl's Court in West London, where people couldn't see. There were loads of pillars. It was a place made for exhibitions, not for music. So right. There was all that kind of stuff going on, and that's why people wanted to see. It was got too big. The music business had got too big and too and was ripping people off.
It's like that Woodstock 2 or whatever, or was it? Yeah, I think it's Woodstock 2 where I think that was the movie they just made on Netflix about how greedy it was and how bad they changed. They were nickel and diming everybody. And so it's just, I think that's gotten really common in the music business.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, Ticketmaster.
Well, that's just one piece of it though. I feel like, a
know.
lot of the venues I hear from bands that now the venues take a cut of the merch that the band sells. I did not know that was a thing.
Oh, I didn't know.
That's very common. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I went to a gig recently and a favorite Manchester band of mine called Dutch Uncles, who are they play kind of systems mixed with prog, mixed with funk, and they're really quite special. And I went to see them, and I thought, this is exactly the same as going to, now I'm 63, and this is the same as when I was going to 17, going to somewhere that's like your feet stick to the floor because of all the spilt beer. And, a woman sort of said, right, you've got to have a stamp on your hand. And I said, why? She said, you have to. I said, make me.
Wait, this was recently?
Yeah, this is about 6 months ago. Yeah.
Wait, you don't say like, don't you know who I am? You don't pull that card. You don't get a VIP treatment or anything.
Oh, I'm not quite as known here as I am in the US, it has to be said. But yeah, well,
Really?
people are. No, no, it's not. It's not on the same scale.
Huh.
But no, I would not that I would have done that anyway. But I just thought, just treat treat people with some humanity, please. This is and don't I'm not having a. I really don't like having a little rub thing round my wrist or a
Yeah.
if you go out, you can't come back in. Fuck off.
I agree. I hate all those fucking rules of this and that. And you're right. Yeah,
Jesus.
there's crowds, and it's like I want the VIP treatment when I go to a concert. I mean, I never get it, but I would pay extra. I think I feel like it's worth it to get like if I could afford it, I'd get like the VIP tables that some places offer and things like that.
Yeah, yeah. I've never seen that in the
Oh, I mean,
UK.
yeah, it depends on the venue and the kind of show, but also sometimes you want to
Yeah.
be like right up on stage and you want to, and so that's not
Yeah.
usually, like you're not going to have a table or whatever if you want to be right close up to the stage. So yeah, it
Yeah,
depends on
yeah.
how big of a fan of the band you are, I guess.
I know. Yeah, absolutely.
So you've been doing music and acting since like age 11. So when did you like feel like you officially made it in acting? Because I think I heard you say you did like 90 commercials. You've got like what is it, like 80 or 90 TV shows and movies that you've done. Was there a point where you're like, all right, I've arrived?
I guess I didn't ever think that really until the thing I thought was, um, oh, that's different, and that's when the pandemic was still sort of on a bit, and we came to LA to we couldn't really do any PR for the first season, but we came to LA for a screening of the first two episodes of season two, and
For
I
Ted
knew there was going to
Lasso?
be a for Ted Lasso. Yeah,
Yeah.
sorry, yes, um, and yeah, we went, and I was the first to get there because I said, "Is there a car ready? Let's get this out of the way," because there was a red carpet, um, and um, and I was a little bit nervous about it, to be honest. And then when it pulled up, I went, "What?" There was a grandstand of about 500 people, mostly sort of quite young people. And when I got out of the car, they all went nuts. And there was a switch in my brain that went, right, this is very, very different. This has not happened before, ever. Something is going on now.
So
So
you knew that it
that
was at that point, you knew that show was huge. Did you didn't predict that at a point when you were filming or when you read the script or when you saw who was involved?
I thought it was great, and it felt really great on set. But I've been in things that have felt good before, and the public haven't taken to them, or the critics haven't. And then it's been trounced in one way. But so when the first season dropped, and people started I'm not on Twitter anymore, but when people started tweeting about it, they were all crazy about it, and I doubted it at first because I thought, is it just because I'm in something and then I'm looking at this and I don't know. So I'm because I've been in so many things that have like people have gone, this is going to be huge, isn't it? And we all go, oh, I hope so. And then it comes out and go, oh, it only did one season. Okay, bye-bye. See you again sometime. You know, I've got quite cynical about it. So it takes a lot of evidence for me to really, really, buy into the fact that I'm in something massive. But I still shake my head about the show. I mean, it's just so massive. I can't quite believe it sometimes.
Yeah, it's a
And I'm
great
really,
show. And I
yeah,
don't even like soccer. And so that's why I hesitated to watch. It took me a while to watch. I know you don't like soccer either. So it took me a while to watch it. I'm like, oh, this is great. You don't need to like soccer to enjoy the show.
yeah, absolutely. And I really thought quite often I get jobs that I feel an affinity with anyway. Like I've actually been in a soap opera. I've done 3 episodes called EastEnders in the UK, and I have to say I don't like it. It's a bit trashy for me. I've never really followed it, but I thought, well, I'll keep doing it. But of course, I didn't because I wasn't really. And so when my agent said, oh, it's about soccer. I went, oh no, forget it. And that's going to be, oh no. But you're absolutely right. It wasn't really about football. It was about a community. It's about a group of people.
So you initially said no to it? Then how did he
Oh no, no,
convince
I just no, I know. I just felt despair. I just
you?
thought,
Okay.
I'm not gonna get that. It's not gonna be for me, you know.
And you
That
still had to try out, and it was like you were going up against other people, right?
I did. I just went up for. I just went. You know, I had one casting, and I subsequently. You may know this. I subsequently found out that Nick Mohammed went up for Higgins. Phil Dunster read for Higgins. I think somebody else did as well. But yeah, no, it was just so exciting to get and then do.
Is there a lot of those? Like, what is your batting at? I don't know if you know that expression. Like for American, we have baseball batting. Every time you hit the ball, you get, it's like a percentage. Like how many things do you try out for that you actually get the role? Because isn't in acting, there's a lot of rejection, even with really good actors such as yourself.
Yes, it's difficult to say. I went up for things at the end of last year. I went up for about three things, and I didn't get them. They were very nice projects, but at the same time, I can't really talk about these. But I've been offered a bunch of films, but I don't know when they're going to happen because of the strike. And I've got a green card now, so I can work in America. And two of them are shooting in America. So, and they were just offers. So,
like you don't even have to try out where they just say, "Hey, you want this role? It's yours."
yeah, yeah.
That's when you know you made it, right?
I guess, yeah.
That's pretty. And you got nominated. I know you guys just recently got nominated for 21 Emmys, but you were nominated in 21 yourself personally as best supporting actor, right?
That's right. Yeah.
It seems like they're just kind of like trading places every year. They're gonna, because they can't nominate everybody. So like you're all great. So they're just kind of, it's taking turns and nominating different people, right?
Yeah, there are a few hardcore like Brett and Hannah and Juno who have been nominated every year, and Jason, of course, and rightly so. But yes, I mean this year, yeah, it's fantastic. It's not just about for the actors that there's real spread on the talent that brings the show together, and production and hair and editing, and so that's really cool. I'm really pleased because the editing is great, the music is great. It's an all-rounded, fabulous piece of work.
So you mentioned that some of the stuff that you've done was, you thought it was going to be a big hit and then it just didn't hit. And why is that? Because I know like Apple TV, I'm sure they have boatloads of cash. So they pumped in they tried to get the best of the best people. But like, I just saw the new Indiana Jones, which cost like, I don't know, 300 million to make. I didn't think it was that great. Like, I think it happens a lot where they pump in a lot of money to a movie or TV show and the magic just isn't there. Why is the magic there in shows like Ted Lasso and not other things?
I think the show is very fresh. It's a very progressive sort of mindset that's the creatives have on the show, and Jason is a great sort of kind, funny leader, and he's great at finessing things because he comes from that world of improv comedy and writing. Anyway, he can finesse things on the floor, and he can do that till the cows come home, I've got to say. And that's what makes it really fresh. When you're if you're at a comedy gig and something's just hits you and it's like, that's in the moment, that really, really counted. He can do that. He can bring that to the set, but also he pieces together the story and the narrative so well. And it's multi-textured. It's not just on-point comedy, which is great anyway. It's got this other stuff going on that looks at toxic masculinity and anxiety and panic attacks and divorce in a very interesting way, and makes you feel tender about it, and then gives you payoff laughs. It works. All that stuff works.
Yeah. Well, I heard you say that Jason Sudeikis is actually kind of shy in person, which is, I guess, somewhat surprising, but somewhat not, because I think if you talk to a lot of actors, it's like that, right?
Well, I wouldn't say, maybe I might have been a little bit inaccurate about saying he's shy, but he's not as he's not as upland sunny as Ted is, but he is really fun in life, in real life, and he's got a serious side as well, you know, and he's very thoughtful, a very well read guy, and you know, aware of lots of things in sport, in you know, social politics, um, mental health, and music. You know, he loves so much music. Yeah,
You
he's
guys
got
like the
a.
same music, or what kind of music does he like?
He likes a little bit more hip hop, 90s hip hop than I would go down the road to like. It has to be
Gotcha.
said, you know, and a little bit of rap that I might think, yeah, yeah, that's a little bit dark for me. But yeah, he likes all sorts of stuff. Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. And then you did I didn't watch this show. My girlfriend was a big fan of Downton Abbey. Is your character coming back on that one, or are you done with that show?
Oh, you mean in the new? Because they're supposed to be doing it again, aren't they? Is that what you
Oh
mean?
yeah, I don't know.
Oh, right. Yeah.
I don't watch it,
You
but I just know you were in that. And that's one of your most
I was
popular.
in that. No, I didn't commit. I hadn't watched it myself until I was in it, to be honest. I think I was really at the time when it came out, which was quite a while, about 13 years ago now. I think I was binging The Wire or something, or The Sopranos. But I didn't come into it to like season 4. I was just offered one episode, and I thought, nah, I don't know. Okay, it's a very big show, and then they kept on bringing me back, and but what was cool that I was working opposite Maggie Smith, and the idea was uh, from the director that brought me into it, who I'd known and worked with about 6 times. He said that quite often the butlers are like an avatar of the people they work for. Um, the guy who played Jim, the guy who played uh, 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 Jim Cartwright, who played Hugh Bonneville's butler, was warm and, you know, a good patrician. And but as Maggie Smith was quite acerbic, they wanted a kind of bitchy, catty butler. So that was a really I really took to that idea. That really sort of pulled me into the show, you know.
Is it more fun playing like a Ted Lasso kind of funny, silly character, or do you like playing the bad guys, or do you ever get to play like a serial killer or like a murderer or anything like that?
Not really very much. I did play I did play a very bad guy in something on telly here ages ago, and then I got murdered, which really upset my mother at the time.
No.
Oh no, I couldn't watch that. Um, but no, generally not. But you know, I think it would be quite creepy, you know, with my sort of chubby cheeked, grinny face to suddenly be a serial killer. So I think it would be quite disturbing. Like, no, not him. Oh, quite
That's what would
upsetting.
make it so brilliant, though, and so original. Is that nobody would see it coming. Like if
Yeah.
it was a who done it and then you were the killer, that would be good.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny. Hey, I bet not a lot of people ask about this movie, but tell me about working on Fred Claus. Because
Oh,
that's like an all-star cast. Vince Vaughn, Elizabeth Banks, Paul Giamatti, John Michael
yeah.
Higgins, Kathy Bates, Kevin Spacey. That's insane.
Yes, I know. Um, yes, it was insane because they had a bunch of small people who were all Russian, actually. I think they were all from the same town, bizarrely.
Wow.
And I had a guy who, who for a lot of it played my body, right? And then
Okay.
they stuck my head on to his body in post production. for some of the scenes, and then some of the things they didn't do that. And this sounds awful, but I would be on my knees, okay, so I was the right size, and I'd have to. There was one scene where I had to kind of run off in a bad mood, and I just had to shuffle off on my knees as fast as I could.
Well, it must have been, I wish I could see the unedited version of that. That sounds hilarious.
I know.
Yeah.
The guy who I tried to communicate with, the guy who played my buddy, who was called Alexei, but he was very grumpy and he was always on his phone. So sometimes to be an interpreter, and I try and say, because in fairness to him, he probably hadn't had much experience, but he was quite a bad actor. So he would do gestures like this. And I try, can he pull it down a bit? Because that's me. That's my head's going on that body.
Right.
So could he be a bit more subtle about it? But didn't always get over to
That's interesting. When I know, I don't think you were in this scene, but I think one of my favorite scenes of that movie is the Brothers Anonymous group. Did you read that or see that? Yeah, right. Isn't that so cool? It's got Sylvester Stallone's brother, Bill Clinton's brother, and Alec Baldwin's brother. I'm like, this is so clever. Like, I thought that was so funny.
I agree. I thought it was, a therapy session what an idea. And they really pulled it off. Yeah, it was great. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you go to the premieres of these movies? I mean, so is that the first time you see it, or?
Usually it is. Yeah, I'm trying to think. I don't think there was a very big premiere for it in the UK, actually. But I have been to Mary Poppins Returns, and that was a huge thing. I went to the world premiere in LA, and then the European premiere in London. Yeah, they're fun.
Yeah, that's really cool. So tell me, I mean, I don't know, can you even talk about this with the actors' strike? Is that officially happening? I just saw something about it today, and then you've obviously mentioned a little bit.
It seems that is going to happen. Yeah, they've they had a kind of a mediator, a federal mediator, I think they said. Interesting. And that has broken down, I believe. So
Is it just because they're backing with the writers, or is it they have different negotiations for the actors as well?
They do have different negotiations with the studios, which they come around every 3 years, apparently, about the same time. So I think the writers, the WGA, that was a month before SAG-AFTRA, I believe, and they didn't. There are ostensibly the same issues, which are about residuals and about the use of AI. And I suppose what we'll hear, I suppose what we'll hear when the strike is announced is, I hope that we'll hear where everything fell down in the negotiations. Because that's what I'd like to know. What were the studios not agreeing to?
Yeah, the AI thing is weird. So because they could use your likeness after you're dead in a commercial or something. Like, didn't they do that with John Wayne or some vacuuming or something like that? They kind of remember that one? I don't know if
I don't know. I would love to see that John vacuuming.
I thought it was something crazy, like it was something weird like that, or it was like some weird thing. And I don't think it was AI, but somehow they superimposed it or whatever. And it's an ethical question, because do you pay? You got to pay them, right? I mean, they're using their likeness.
I know. I did talk to my daughter recently. I said, I wonder if it'll come to a point where I have to copyright my image for you to get residuals after I'm dead.
Seriously, I don't know.
I mean, that's it's quite possible, isn't it? I mean,
yeah, or like what is the even permission? Like, even if you if you copyrighted, then they wouldn't be able to do it without permission. But then, like, if you're dead, then is it like your children have to get permission, or is it just like you have your will and testimony says, don't ever use my likeness, it's over, I'm dead, leave me alone? I don't know.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a crazy. So that makes sense that they're negotiating all that stuff then.
Yes, I think particularly about residuals for streaming, which is what it is, and the writers. I think, uh, you know, the studios make a lot of money from this stuff, and the same thing happened in the writers went on strike in 1980 when videos came out. I don't know whether you knew that.
Mm.
And of course, that was a whole new market, which they were kind of making what they made at all the theaters and the cinemas again. You know, they were doubling, and the writers weren't getting the benefit of it. So it's yeah, these things
That's
have to
great.
be.
So what is the rule now? Like if you, I mean, like with Ted Lasso, the whole thing is on streaming. So how does that work? Like if it's a movie like Fred Claus plays on streaming, that's something you made in 2007. You get a residual for that?
I do get it. I have got the odd bit, but the actors union in the UK is much weaker than SAG-AFTRA. If I'd had a SAG-AFTRA contract on that film, I would still probably be getting money for it. I mean, this is why. Got to tell you, Chuck, that this is why I've got my green card and want to get money in the States, because the difference is enormous. You get for one episode in the States what you would get for a series in the UK.
So what you're saying is America is better. It's
America, it pays better because
pays better.
Yeah, because they've done all the contracts. You are legally the force in the world. I mean, that's what America does. It tries to get legality about everything and copyright and blah blah blah.
Yeah,
So,
no, for sure. I mean, there's so much money being made, and I think the writers and the actors just want a little bit bigger piece. I don't think that's unreasonable. I'm sure you guys will get it. I'm sure it'll get worked out.
I hope so. Yeah,
because they need you. They can't. Well, then again, with the AI, I don't know. Maybe
yeah, they might go right. Robots, come on, robots.
Yeah,
take over.
That's some scary shit. Is there anything that you've been, now that you're going to have maybe some time off, is there anything that you've been watching recently or binging or?
I've only just watched The Last of Us, which I thought was fantastic. I was a little bit skeptical because I don't really do zombies, and I always find them when one appears, I always think dance workshop. They've gone to a contemporary dance, and they've got people going, right, so shoulder out, wiggle, fall over, head loose, and spin and turn and step. So I always thought, oh no, I can't. But it's the characters were fantastic, and the Jeopardy was, it was really good. I like that, and The Crowded Room with Tom Holland. We're watching on Apple, which is it's really powerful. It's devastating, I think.
I don't know if I've seen that one. We just finished Silo. Have you seen that?
Yes, I did see Silo. I liked it very much.
Yeah, it was really, it's like a cliffhanger.
Little bit drawn out. I thought, yes. Please go outside. Please go outside a bit earlier and just let's discover more things.
Yeah.
Let's, Severance, of course, which is also on Apple. That is fantastic. Yeah.
I'm not familiar with that one. I'll have to check that out.
Do you guys have Colin from Accounts, the comedy, Australian comedy?
No, I don't think so.
Because I've talked to some people in LA who have watched that, but
that must be on something. Do you know what streaming it's on?
I don't. I mean, it's on the BBC in the UK, but that is very charming. It's very unusual. It's great.
Okay, really, good. I'll check that out. So, I was going to ask you too. What do you think of? Because most people obviously love Ted Lasso, but do you ever get? You must get bad reviews some of the time for some of the work you've done, or trolls online. How do you deal with that stuff?
Well, I came off Twitter because sometimes there's the odd person who'll make a comment, and I think, oh, don't do that. I'm generally not out there to stir things up. I usually am just posting stuff about the show. I don't really post things about my family because I'm quite protective about that. Yeah, no, I do find it. I do find it can be upsetting, but I don't. I generally try and avoid it. And as I say, it came off Twitter. I yeah, I just found it just got a bit too toxic. I'd find myself scrolling through stuff and just getting annoyed for that. And I just, what am I doing? This is pointless. Absolutely pointless. Go and play some music. Do something creative, you know.
Yeah, well, there you go. And the new album is out now. It's called Songs of Escape and Endless Night, right? I think I hope I got that right.
You have it. Completely
All
got
right.
that right.
Yeah, it's on all the streaming. It's can people get a physical copy if they want?
They can't. I haven't done that. I'll tell you why, because when I put out my single, I was working on Mary Poppins Returns when I brought out my single called Star Song, which is on my first album. And I got I got loads of copies of it, and I gave it to people when it came out. And like one of the runners on the film went, "Oh, thank you ever so much. I don't know what I'm going to play this on." I went, "Oh, nobody. Oh," and that was just when CD players were just becoming like, you know, they weren't incorporated into laptops, you know,
Right.
or discs, you know. So oh really? What? And yeah, so that's why I haven't really bothered.
But
You know,
vinyl,
'cause
that's making a comeback. There's a lot. I interview a lot of musicians that they sell their stuff on vinyl. It's like a collector's for certain people. They really like that. I don't personally,
yeah,
but other people do. But
I
yeah, I
do
just like
love
to listen on streaming. So it's on there. It's on Spotify. It's great. It's good. People
it.
should
Is.
definitely check it out. Of course, Ted Lasso's, not that we need to promote that, but that's on Apple TV. Anything else to promote?
That'll do for now. That's quite enough about me.
Okay. Well, I always end promoting a charity. Is there a charity that you want to promote or that you've worked with before?
My wife helps run a charity called Safety Curtain, which is online, which helps out people in the entertainment business in war-torn countries. So, you know, for example, there was a children's puppeteer who was in Syria, you know, and there was a you know, heartbreaking photograph online of him actually doing it, you know, on a sort of kind of a destroyed house, you know, pile of rubble, doing in a puppet booth, doing, you know. So that is a great chance.
That sounds amazing. I love, what's it called? Safety
Curtain.
Safety Curtains. Okay, yeah, I'll put that in the show notes along with a link to your music. And appreciate you doing this. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Great talking to you.
You too. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Jeremy Swift, such a fun guy to chat with. Great stories and so funny. He's so funny on Ted Lasso, but also funny in interviews as well. So what a neat guy. Check out his music. It's free on streaming. If you like that kind of synth pop, new wave, Morrissey, Radiohead, David Bowie, it's really great. Catchy songs. And of course, watch him on Ted Lasso as well. Follow him on Instagram. He's still got that, even though he deleted his Twitter. And if you want to support the show, you can follow us on social media, and your likes, shares, and comments will help the post show up in other people's newsfeed. Make sure that you're also subscribed to the show wherever you listen. And if you're on a platform that has a rating or review like Apple Podcasts or Spotify, I'd love to see some positive feedback. We got some trolls, so, you know, a couple good reviews would help. Thank you for watching. Have a great rest of your day, and shoot for the moon.